Welcome back to Watch Along Pod. This week we're talking about Oliver and Company, Disney's 1988 take on the Charles Dickens classic Oliver Twist.
A long way from Victorian London, this story takes place in 1980s New York. Oliver is a stray kitten who joins a gang of street-smart dogs and learns that the definition of family is not always what you'd think.
Packed with plenty of action, heart, and a toe-tapping soundtrack, it was a return to form for Disney.
So, does Oliver and Company really belong in Disney's dark ages, or should it be considered the first blossom of the Renaissance?
Let's talk about it!
Is everybody ready?
We've made it.
We've made it.
We've
We're
made
here.
it to the good films.
That's unfair. We've had some good films,
Yeah, we've had some alright films.
but the quality of this one, just this felt Disney.
Yeah, this felt like the Disney we know and love and grew up with.
Yeah. I think there's a certain feel to the first 30 to 40 years of Disney films.
Yeah.
The gold and silver era especially, they just have a certain feel to them, and then everything from now onwards feels totally different and revolutionary.
And I think that's really what we've seen in the last few films, is them trying to find that. They've been trying to find what is the next thing.
This is it, boys and girls.
This is it.
So you have seen this before.
I have seen this. I loved this as a child. Oliver and Company was definitely one of my top ones. Loved it.
You said you was worried that it might not hold up.
Yeah, I haven't rewatched it as an adult. Lots of the ones coming up I've watched hundreds and hundreds of times as adult, as a child, as everything. But this really was one that I watched when I was a kid, and I was like, oh, I don't know, like you had said before with like the Rescuers and things, that you remember really loving it, and then you were like, ooh. And that's what I was worried. I was like, I know that there's good moments in it, but I couldn't remember if the whole film would hold up to my like enjoyment of it. So, but it did.
Good. I'm glad. I'd never seen this before. In fact, until I was about 13 years old, I didn't even know this film existed. And it was just like, I was at a friend's house and I saw the VHS. How old am I? I saw the VHS and said, what the hell's that? Yeah, Oliver and Company. Yeah, what is that? It's a Disney film. No, it isn't. What are you talking about? Crazy.
Yeah.
And it's taken me now almost double the length of time it took me to discover that it existed to actually get around to watching it. And I'm glad I did.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed this.
It's such a good film. And do you know what was really nice? I watched it with my two nephews.
Oh.
Who, they're both not movie children, much to my dismay. They both hate movies. They won't sit and watch them. I want to force them to, and my sister tells me, don't force them to watch something. And I'm like, they need to learn.
They need an
They
education.
need to learn to enjoy movies. I was forced as a child.
When we were children, we didn't have anything else to do.
Yeah, there was no YouTube.
You're living in the past. This is the 14th century.
I think this is a bit of a forgotten film, isn't it? Not many people.
I think there is a love for it, because I've seen a lot of people do cosplay of this film. Georgette is a big one, and I've seen some great Georgette cosplays, like excellent. And I think people do remember it, but I think you've got to be in a certain like age bracket to remember this one. It's not like some of the other ones we've got coming up that have really gone across the ages, and that they're still like people still watch them today. I think this one is a little bit more of a niche,
Yeah, like a cult classic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was something at the beginning that I did think, oh, okay.
Aged badly.
Well, yeah, because obviously it's in New York, and the opening shot is of the New York skyline, which is dramatically different now to what it was in the 80s. So, yeah, the Twin Towers are right there on the screen. And obviously that's, at that time, like it came out in the late 80s and it was set in the late 80s. So, of course it would be. But, yeah, I did think, oh, that's not aged well.
Yeah, I think it's quite interesting that it's still in the movie, because Disney and some other studios went through a lot of effort to remove any reference or imagery of the Twin Towers from their films digitally. And the decision was made to leave it in this film for a couple of reasons. One, it cost money to do that. And two, they felt that it would have changed the visuals of the introduction just too much. So they left it in, and they actually got a lot of praise for doing that, because it is reflective of
the time period. They were there at that time, and as much as it's a horrific thing that happened and there's a lot of pain associated with that event, still that is part of history, that they were there. And if you sort of erase them from history, you sort of erase what happened and the people that whose lives were taken, and you're almost erasing all of that, which, you know, I sort of do get why, you know, people praise that decision to sort of keep it in as a reminder almost.
Yeah, I do kind of understand why they might remove it, especially from something like a Disney film. They're supposed to be kind of timeless, and you don't want something that is inherently sad.
This is quite very, very clearly set in the 80s. It's not timeless. It's
well, yeah,
set in a very specific time period.
It is set in a very specific time, which I'll come back to later. So I noticed something quite interesting about that. But yeah, I just mean, like, Disney would not want a tragic event.
But it's not a big part of the like, it's not.
No, but it's a reminder, and for some people who are watching a Disney film, to kind of cheer up, to escape.
I don't know, the opening's very sad.
Oh gosh, yeah.
I wouldn't be cheering up watching the opening of this film.
No, it is very sad. But ultimately, I think leaving the Twin Towers in is a great thing, because never forget. And how do you never forget? By being reminded.
Don't wipe it from history, you know. And the thing is, Disney did do other things that they felt was appropriate. You know, we'll probably get to it when we get to Lilo and Stitch, but a massive scene had to be changed in that film because of that event. And they did that out of respect, and that they didn't want to seem like they didn't care and things like that. And that was absolutely the right decision at that time. But yeah, when they made this, that was a reflection of what New York looked like.
It's a very sad start to the film, isn't it?
I mean, obviously it's based on Oliver by Charles Dickens. And it's quite a sad, there's a lot of sadness in all Charles Dickens novels. Like, I mean, he was a miserable man. And then you get to Christmas Carol and you're like, maybe he saw a bit of light. Like, you know. But he wasn't a miserable man. He wanted to shed light on what was happening in, like, the workhouses and orphanages and things like that in Victorian England, and how, you know, children especially were being treated. You know, he wanted to talk about class and the difference between the rich and the poor and all those things. And obviously you see that a lot within Oliver, the novel. But you also see it in this as well. They do reflect the themes very well. And I think it's a good adaptation for kids. I really think it's a great introduction into the world of classic literature.
My only exposure to the story of Oliver Twist is that musical, and now Oliver and Company. But it's been so long since I've seen that film that I was finding it difficult to draw the parallels between this story and that.
Fagin owes Bill Sykes money, and you don't have Nancy as the actual Nancy, and Bill Sykes uses street children to go and pick pockets
Yeah.
to raise the money for Bill Sykes.
So, okay, fine. Can see on that level. Who's the little girl?
I always sort of thought the little girl was sort of meant to be a little bit of a mix between Nancy and the family, obviously, that he ends up with, because Nancy sort of wants to save Oliver a lot in the story. She is Bill Sykes's, I don't think they're married, but person, and he beats her.
Victim.
Yeah, victim, and he beats her. So, like, when he kidnaps the little girl, I always sort of saw that as sort of that part of that story. There's definitely a lot of changes. Like, it's not true to the story all the way through, and there's a lot of changes, but it's a great interpretation of the basic story and the source material. Like, obviously, Dodger is the Artful Dodger, and I think they got, like, to turn a character that we all know and love into a dog, and they did it so well. Like, that dog is the Artful Dodger. Like, it's so good. And I think, you know, the best song in the film, Why Should I Worry? Tell me. Why Should I Care? Is like Consider Yourself. It's that kind of, you know, like, rousing anthem, and I think that they did it great.
Yeah, I think it works better making it different in the way that they have with this, because when you watch, like, how many versions have you seen of A Christmas Carol? And they're usually a bit copy paste, aren't they?
Well, you can't, there's not a hell of a lot you can change in A Christmas Carol.
Yeah, but once upon a time, people might have said that about the story of Oliver Twist. There's not an awful lot you can change about it. Change stuff. Why not? Make it different. It's an adaptation. Or
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. You can change things, but they didn't change the fundamental, like, Oliver is an orphan who is searching for a family, and even though he does find people that love him, it's not quite right, and they have to let him go to have a better life. And, you know, they go and kidnap him again.
they do, just as he's settling down and he's feeling happy.
With all the food and the comfy pillows.
Yeah, let's rescue him. Yeah, great idea, guys.
And Georgette is like, yeah, take the cat.
She's horrible to begin with, but
She is,
such a good character.
But she's such a good comedy character. Like, Bette Midler, what a performance.
Oh, yeah.
Like, brilliant, excellent. And I love the look of her as well. The colour the colour palette they used for her. And I don't know, she just feels right. I just think it was great that they put, like, something within the home that was like, ew, I don't want to catch it. Like, do you know what I mean? They made that villain without it being a villain, and yeah, it's good. And they really played on the bit where when Oliver wants to go back and he's saying, why did you take me? I was happy. And Dodger gets really upset and hurt, and that is, you know, portrayed in the musical, in the book and everything, that, you know, he's hurt. He saved this kid and he feels betrayed.
Yeah. Oh, now you're leaving us and we've got to stay here and you're off living a happy life while we're left behind.
Yeah, because he's a cute little cat and they're scruffy ruffians.
Scruffians.
Scruffians.
You want to leave? Fine. There's the door.
They've chopped and changed it as they needed to. they've made it fresh, they've made it interesting, and it works. It really works.
It really works. It really does. And it keeps your attention. The songs are good. The characters are great. You can really start to feel that they're getting into much deeper character development as well. Like, okay, yes, they're pulling from source material, but they're actually giving us time to get to know the characters and feel for them a bit more. Jenny, even though she is a main character, but not really. We don't really care about the humans. We want to know about the animals. They still give quite a good backstory of like her parents don't love her, and
I did feel really sorry for her
when she was saying about her parents not going to be there for her birthday, and I was like, these parents are awful. Like, ugh.
Her big rich parents. She didn't seem to have any gifts from them for her birthday, but all of the homeless turned up, and gave her trash.
And she was happy.
She was happy and grateful for that.
Because she just wanted company.
Oliver and company.
Hey. Yeah, she didn't want the butler.
Yeah. I liked him though.
It was funny.
Wrestling fan.
Yeah, I loved it. I loved the bit where they'd seen Oliver go into the home and the dogs are outside, and you just see him like this, and you're like, oh no, he's going to kill him. He's done for. And then you go in and he's got a rolling pin and he's like, hit him, and he's watching the wrestling.
Yeah, but from outside, it just looks like he's whacking.
Oh man, he's dead meat now.
We talked about last week the use of CGI.
Yes. Used heavily in this, wasn't it?
It was for a lot of the background details. So we like all of the car scenes and everything like that. The individual characters were hand drawn, but they used a lot of the computer techniques for this. We watched on Disney Plus. There's a short making of which we watched. It's only like about a 4 or 5 minute thing. The way they talk about the use of computer technology is hilarious watching it now. And we've got phones and we've got all of this crazy stuff, and they're going, and this has 14 parts to it in the drawing, and the computer makes them move all at different times and automatically. Very clever. And it's like they're talking to a 1-year-old about how to read a book almost.
Yes.
Like, it's,
Describe this to an alien sort of thing.
Obviously, at the time, people would have been like, whoa, that's so crazy, because they wouldn't have known. But showing it, if I showed that to my nephews, they'd be like, why are they talking to us like that? I know what a computer is. But
how times have changed.
Yeah. But they specifically spoke about Georgette's song, didn't they? And how when you get the big sweeping view of the staircase as she's coming down. And that really made me think of what's coming up in Beauty and the Beast. When you get the big sweeping view of the grand ballroom and things. And I was like, you can really see the seeds of things that are about to come. They're really trying things out, and they're going, actually, this is incredible. We can do some really amazing stuff with this.
Yeah. I mean, this is the end of the Bronze Era or the Dark Ages.
Dark Ages, we know it is.
But if this era has been good for anything, it has been experimentation.
Yeah.
They've tried new techniques. They've discovered and perfected the Xerox method for their animation, which in this film looks better than it ever has. Even in Basil the Great Mouse Detective, it was looking really clean. It just looked clean. First, it looked really sketchy and rough around the edges, and they weren't doing cleanup and stuff. And now it looks really smooth and nice. They are trying out different things with tone. They've gone for something much darker, a bit scarier.
Which they realise,
that ain't it.
Cut it.
They're using CGI. they've taken songs out, they've put more songs in and made it more musical. And with Oliver and Company, I think they've gone, that's it.
Yeah. And obviously what we don't see when you're watching these films is what's happening in the background at Disney. All of the films that are coming up in the next few weeks were already in planning at this point. They were already starting to develop them. They were already talking about it. Alan Menken, who we are about to have a run of Alan Menken films, he was already on board at Disney at this point. And he'd already been commissioned to do Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast and Aladdin. They were already all three of those in the works. So I think before even Oliver came out, Disney had realised, okay, what we were doing, not working, not selling, not hitting the mark. I think they probably had a look at, right, what's some of our best films that we've ever done? Like, what have been our biggest successes? And really, the ones with music really do. They work for Disney, they sell for Disney. And I think it's because kids love music.
You've just said it applies to kids, but I think it actually applies to everyone.
Oh, well, yeah.
Music is that one thing that any age can enjoy. The music is the hook.
I think it is. There's something about Disney songs, of all of the ones, even if you go right back to the beginning, there's something about Disney music that is special. And you can tell when they've brought out a film and the person hasn't understood Disney, and you're like, oh, these songs, oh, no. And it's like, great, like now they've got Lin-Manuel Miranda involved, and he knows what he's doing. He is, even though he's got his own style from like Alan Menken, he knows what it means to make a Disney soundtrack, and he can do it.
They'll stick with him for a long time to come.
Yeah.
And that's what they did. The Sherman Brothers did it for years. And then they passed the torch.
And then Alan Menken is still going.
Yeah. I have mentioned Don Bluth before, but for those of you who are just tuning in, he worked for Disney and didn't like the way the company was going, and he left to make his own cartoons, and he took a bunch of the animators from Disney with him.
He doesn't seem like a musical person.
Nah.
And that's not right for Disney.
Nah. He had his own style and his
that's
own
fine.
ideas.
Yeah.
But he teamed up with Steven Spielberg, and they made a lot of very successful movies that competed directly with Disney for years. And this film, Oliver and Company, was in the cinema at the same time as The Land Before Time, which
I've never watched.
You won't enjoy it.
No,
do you know, you might, but it is very sad. It's not Disney. But this was the first time in a long time that a Disney animated film beat a Bluth movie at the box office.
You can't beat a bit of Billy Joel.
No, this grossed $53 million versus the $46 million of Land Before Time. But apparently people were still going to the cinema to see Oliver and Company for months afterwards.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. The success of this film made Roy Disney pay attention and commit to making one animated movie per year.
Which in the 90s, literally there is at least one a year.
It sparked the Renaissance.
And that's why I feel like this possibly should sit in the Renaissance, not in the Dark Ages.
Yeah, I think it's unfair for it to be in the Dark Ages, but it's a turning point.
Yeah, this is the film that pushed into the Renaissance, and I think it's a very pivotal film for Disney for that. And I think that it probably reignited a lot of their passion that probably people, the last few films, hadn't done amazing. They hadn't done terrible, but they hadn't done amazing. There was not a lot of buzz. You know, I don't think Disney was like a hot word like it is nowadays at that time. Obviously, they were focused a lot on the Disney parks at that time as well, because Disney World and all of that was coming about, and you know, they were getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and I think there was a lot of focus on that side of things. And then, you know, they'd lost a little bit of the passion, it felt like, and it felt like really it came back in this, and it felt exciting. And I felt like I could feel the animators' excitement through it, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it must have felt like they had come up with something very special, putting all of the pieces together, all of the big ideas that made this so much different from everything else before it. However, I do feel like it kind of does still belong in the dark ages, just because although it is a vast improvement and a real turning point, I don't think it is up to standard with...
No, you look at the
else.
next film, and the next film's a massive jump, just in terms of style, animation, songs, everything.
Impact.
Yeah, your next film is a massive jump, and a splash. Yeah.
Did you see any familiar Dalmatians in
I
this
saw
movie?
Pongo.
Pongo. Did you see any other familiar dogs in this movie?
There were
The same
a few.
scene.
There were a few, weren't there? Lady and the Tramp.
Yeah, Jock, Trusty, and Peg from Lady and the Tramp were there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Easter eggs like that. It's got a few Easter eggs in this film, actually. There was 2 hidden rodents in this film, and I'm not saying hidden Mickeys, but one of them was him.
I noticed they weren't. I don't think they were specific characters, but did you notice the rodents when Dodger's going to his like hideout, and there's like a little group of rats, as if they're like the homeless people round like a fire pit.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, I don't know if I saw this right, but one of them looked like they were smoking a spliff.
No. They wouldn't have put that in.
You sure about that?
It was so quick. And I don't know, because I sort of saw it, and because I was watching it with my nephews, I was like,
I have to go back and check that
I'm
scene
going to
out.
gloss over that.
Wow. Did you see the other 2 hidden rodents?
I saw the hidden Mickey.
Yeah.
That wasn't really hidden.
No, it wasn't really. It was right in the middle of the screen.
Yeah.
In Fagin's watch.
Yeah.
But
I loved that.
did you see the other hidden rodent?
No.
No. It was a character from last week's film in this week's film.
Ratigan.
Ratigan, yes.
Ratigan.
In Georgette's song, there is one shot where she's in front of a bunch of picture frames of all of the dogs that she's loved, I think, is what she was saying. But in one of those frames is a picture of Ratigan.
What, so she's had an affair with Ratigan?
Yeah, and he's a dog, apparently.
Well, he's not. He's a rat.
Well, love Rat. Obviously, it's supposed to be a hidden detail, isn't it?
Yeah. Or it's just people who have sent her pictures because they admire her, trying to win her over, woo her.
Maybe.
But we all know who woos her.
Oh, Tito.
Tito.
Does he woo her?
Well, she does come around.
She looks at him and she's like, I can fix him.
No, I think at first she looks at him and she's like, ugh.
Oh, yeah,
Ugh.
definitely.
But then he warms on her and she's sort of like, I reckon I could make something out of this. And she puts him in a little sailor suit.
Yeah, he doesn't like that.
He doesn't. It's hilarious. It's so funny.
That's good.
It's when she goes, first we'll start with a bath. And he's like,
Ooh.
and then he realises.
No. Another Easter egg, Hi Ho.
Yeah, I did see that.
Tito sings Hi Ho. That put a smile on my face.
Yeah, that was cute.
Self-referential.
Hey, hi ho, it's off to work we go.
Talking of Tito, I really also liked Francis as a character.
My name is Francis. Francis. Not Frank. Not Frankie. Francis.
Oh, the thespian.
The thespian. Like, I loved the whole bit when they're like, the other dog gets hit by the car, and then he's like, right, me, and he lies on the floor and he's like, oh, oh. And I'm like, how could a dog be so dramatic?
Billy Joel as Dodger. He was really good.
It's excellent.
He'd never acted before this, as far as
No.
I'm aware.
No.
And apparently it's one of his only acting credits where he is playing a character and not just appearing as himself.
I think he missed the call in there because he really, like, he could be a voice actor because you would never have known that that wasn't somebody who did that professionally. Do you know what
Yeah.
I mean?
So you had hinted to me before that Billy Joel was involved in this film, and I had assumed that he did all the music. When I realised he was Dodger, I was amazed.
He did the why should I worry? Why should I care?
Yep. And then we've already mentioned Bette Midler was Georgette as well.
Perfect
Perfect
casting.
casting.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah. The music was written, some of it was by Huey Lewis
Yep.
and Barry Manilow.
A weird combination of people had a hand in this music.
Yeah.
And I think you do feel it. I don't think they feel like a cohesive, like what we see next with Alan Menken is a really cohesive soundtrack that carries a melody throughout and really has like much more musical, probably what we'd class as musical theatre, whereas this is more, right, we've written a pop song, we've written this type of song, we've written this song, let's mash them in there.
Yeah. The music was very contemporary.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
I think that only created a stronger sort of sense of the world and the time that it was set in.
Yeah.
It just felt very 80s.
It did. And I loved that.
Yeah, it was great. Do you know what I thought was quite shocking in this film?
What?
Right, Captain Sarcasm. The deaths.
Yeah.
My jaw hit the floor when the dog fell off of the car onto the train tracks and just got zapped. You heard him yelp off into the distance. He's a goner.
Yeah.
And then immediately after, Sykes' car gets obliterated by a train. I was like,
But they were the bad guys. Who cares? Do you know what it is time for?
is it time to put it on the ranking board?
It is.
I'm going to have real trouble ranking this film
Yeah, me
because I really enjoyed it and I thought it was a lot better as a Disney film than a lot of what we've seen already.
too. 100%.
However, it doesn't feel like a classic as
No.
much as some of the others that we've seen.
But I do think it played a very important role in Disney. I think this needs to have its place on the board because it was such a pivotal moment for Disney.
Yeah,
The songs are great. The characters are iconic. You know, I just think there's a lot to love about it. And I think it does feel like it needs to be probably around here.
if you're happy with that, let's stick it in 30.
Right, let's put it here. As Pongo was in the film, it feels right that he's right by Pongo.
There we go. Oliver and Company in at number 30.
We're filling up the boards. We're filling up the boards.
I'm really enjoying seeing these boards get filled.
Yeah, I know. I spent so long making these. It's a nice feeling.
Satisfying.
It is. It is.
So, we've already said it. What are we watching next week, Daisy?
Well, we haven't actually said the name of it.
Haven't we?
No.
Oh, we've just given little
Yeah.
hints.
A little splash. Next
Oh.
week, we are watching The Little Mermaid. We're getting to the good stuff.
We're getting to the real good stuff.
And I am about to star in The Little Mermaid.
Are you?
Yes, I'm going to be in an...
Why have you never mentioned
I
that?
know. I'm going to be in an amateur production of The Little Mermaid very soon, playing Ursula. Right, that's it.
Until next time,
All that's left for us to say is,
remember,
you're never too old to be young. Bye.
Bye.
Is everybody ready?